Alrighty, well, I guess we will get into things.
hmm
Alrighty. Well, howdy, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyle Snyder. I welcome you once again to the new Deal Network podcast. This is episode 3. I am your host, Kyle the Rage Cage Snyder. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Yeah, you laugh it up, fuzzball.
Oh, I am, buddy.
Yeah, and, well, we're just going to get into it. I actually have a personal friend on tonight. Just full disclosure, in order to be transparent. I will be interviewing him on some relatively recent occurrences that have been happening on the campus where I graduated. So without further ado, how about you introduce yourself, man?
Sure. So, my name's Isaac. I'm a student at, of course, as Kyle said, the college which he's graduated. It's a known liberal arts college where we're from. I'm a computer science major, and I've been with this college for 3 years. So I just started my senior year.
Yeah. So specifically why I am having him on, why we're having this discussion, is there have been some rather interesting happenings on campus. Some mildly problematic and troubling things that have kind of piqued our interest and kind of started a discussion. And so kind of starting with that, Isaac, what's kind of the occurrence for you that made you kind of stop and, kind of raise an eyebrow and go, wait, hang on, what? Is there like an event that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, so, I mean, the earliest thing that I really started to identify was I was dating a girl who was an African American Studies major, and she was rather liberal, very liberal. So I would expect her to be open-minded about these kinds of things. But as she went into her major, she told me that she felt very pressured to act in a certain way because she was a white girl, and she was kind of looked down upon. So that's when I really started to question the culture of Berea. And that's kind of led me to be more critical of race relations, to be more critical of these sweeping statements that have become more common this year of people who are white or people who are Trump supporters. And it really came to, it really exploded.
Hang on. I got to back up because I do not know this. This is the first time I've ever heard about this. So you were dating an African-American girl?
No, she was African American Studies, but she was a white girl.
Oh, okay.
So she said that she felt intimidated by her peers to not do that study because she's white. That's essentially what she boiled it down to. I can't validate that in any sense, but that's what really got me questioning, is that environment real at Berea College?
Yeah. Well, kind of moving forward, what were kind of some other occurrences that maybe made you go, huh? Kind of made you stop and think and kind of start to consider maybe the college's mission or the college's goals were not the best. Perhaps they had certain thoughts or feelings that were problematic.
Sure. Yeah. So the first occurrence that was really troubling to me, the first one that really caused me to feel marginalized, was this campus climate survey that our college administered. And on it, we had a variety of ethnicities. We had the male and female sex, if I remember correctly, and we had the breakdown of ethnicities along with sex. But when I looked at the survey, and a concern that my friends had is that the Jewish people were not included, the Romani people were not included, and the general group of white people was not included, right?
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that, it wasn't... The issue is that, you didn't have an option of white. So, for example, if they didn't have Jewish on there, that might have been okay if they simply had the white option. Because, there are large sections of the Jewish population that are considered white. Ashkenazi, I believe, are pretty much all considered white. So, even if there was a white button to tick or whatever, at least they would have some form of representation. But not only did they not have a specialized option, but they didn't even have the white option to begin with. So it was no representation.
Yeah, that's an argument I'm willing to take, is that they were not represented. I don't know if necessarily having white would justify not representing Jewish or Romani or something like that. But I can say that not having any option for these people is troublesome, and it removes their ability to have a voice on a survey, right? So it becomes easier to justify that they're not marginalized when you're never gathering that data.
And that is relatively, I can definitely understand where you're coming from, just because it is rather disturbing, especially considering, we're not going to turn this into a Holocaust pity party, but what you're saying is it's problematic because you're distancing them from this, survey of, have you ever been marginalized, have you ever been attacked, or have you ever felt pressured, or any kind of number of things, and you're not including, okay, come on, let's not beat around the bush here. Few million people died in the 40s. Eastern Europeans, yes. And they tossed Jews, they tossed mentally handicapped people in there. They tossed they just killed all these people. And so I think it's a little weird that it's oh well, it's current year, so obviously the Jews don't have any problems anymore. It's okay, that's a little. I mean. That's a little odd. That'd be a bit like saying, let's remove black people off of that survey because, well, we already had civil rights, am I right? It's well, let's maybe dial back on that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we can even justify that argument with the fact that last year our college took a Nazi on the campus. I wonder what the Jewish people think about that. But they're in power, right? Power, it has to be oppression plus power, add a few more things until it can only apply to people of color.
We're not going to get into that, but
Certainly.
For those of you that don't know, this is actually a personal story that affected me as well. On campus, they had a guy walking around who was pretty much a straight-up Nazi. One of our acquaintances actually had to room with him for a semester, and they did not say very many good things about him, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yes. So it's certainly interesting that given that knowledge, people were still dismissive of the idea that the Romani or Jewish people should be on this climate survey, as people took to Facebook to kind of discuss this and ask the community, to say to the community, I don't think this was right, do you agree? And the community, which is made up of Berea students, Berea alum, and some Berea administrators, staff members, of all of them, very few people came out in the defense of the Jewish or Romani people, and a lot of people came out in the defense of the idea that the white people should not be included. We saw comments such as, comments essentially calling white people who felt marginalized snowflakes, trying to rebrand the terminology that apparently we use because we're white. We saw them coming out and saying, a hypothetical situation, surveyor, white people, are you marginalized? White people. No, we're not. Things like that. And I remember very specifically that you mentioned, somebody said, but they're not marginalized. And you said, but what if they are? And they just got really snooty with you as though that can't be a reality.
I think that I stayed out of this conversation mostly. I commented one thing, and I said, it's kind of a shame that we couldn't include all opinions. But that's pretty much what I said. I didn't say much. Because I was like, this is toxic. I'm staying away from this. I believe it was one of our other friends mentioned that let's not assume because of their skin color that they might not have something.
I'll pull up the comment later.
Yeah, about their character that, would kind of lead them to be, insulted or, marginalized. Some form of, issue. We're not jumping straight up, oh, well, they oppress us. Because, no, we're not saying that. We're not going to jump straight to the nth degree and treat it like it's the most extreme example. But, just simple insults, simple name calling. At least give us a chance to say, hey, this is happening. And this is kind of, this hurts my feelings. Just that. But let's not even go nuts about it. Let's just make it simple. And I remember that he said that. And he was just like, well, let's not assume, based on their skin color, that, something might not be happening. Because making those assumptions is dangerous because you put all people into a box, and that can get rather problematic very quickly, as we've seen throughout a lot of human history.
Yes.
We have a tendency of doing this. We're tribalistic, but we're not going to get into that. So specifically, going back to kind of the Facebook comments, because you had mentioned that, this was about the climate survey and about you and some of your other acquaintances that had engaged these people on social media. I'm going to kind of stop here for a minute and kind of hover over Facebook, if you will. And are there any other occurrences on social media that kind of also gave you pause, like maybe certain statements that were treated as something to be celebrated, or something that was like okay or funny, or any number of things that kind of made you go, wait, what? And then maybe just kind of gave you pause to think.
Right. Yeah. So we end up getting this. So long story short, to kind of give context, liberal campus, we have some people that want to host an event where you are to find your spirit animal. So a lot of people found this problematic. It kind of exploded. It gets down the pipes. A couple posts later, people are getting really offended, upset. And one student comments that something to the effect of, white people cannot genuinely understand another culture. And I saw this comment, and I go, that's strange. I didn't know. So the implication of that statement is that white people are of one culture, and of course the obvious statement that white people cannot genuinely understand another culture and thereby appreciate or value it in the proper way. And that kind of got my gears turning, What is it what's so unique about white skin that makes them unable to understand a culture? What is white culture anyway? And as I kind of pulled this apart, I just realized that this was just a bigoted generalization of all people of the white skin color, right? So I made the brilliant decision to go out and create a Facebook post saying, student, using their name, of course, you are a racist. And I linked the post. I took a screenshot of the comment and put it up on my Facebook. And I had been absent from Facebook for many months. So this was kind of my big thing coming back on. So I have all of my old friends on there like, oh my God, the hero we need, things like that, right? But it quickly turned into a shit show, very quickly.
So I guess let's stop there for a minute and
yes.
Explain to me, I guess, what your thought process was when you reacted the way you did. So you saw this post, it offended you, it made you feel like, it made you feel bad, for lack of a better term. It made you feel like, well, this isn't right, this isn't okay, and then you reacted the way you did. Why did you do that, and, do you still stand by it?
Geez, that's a hard question. Yes, so I reacted the way I did because I was very much in System 1 thinking. I was offended, I was upset, and it just came to a boiling point to think that at this college where we are very firmly founded in the idea of equality and of not making sweeping judgments of people based on skin color, national origin, etc., we still have this issue going on, and nobody wants to stand up to say anything about it. Nobody wants to put their foot down, especially not in the administration, not in the institution. And this, to me, is troublesome. I know I'm of the persuasion. There's a lot to get into, but I'm of the persuasion that allowing people to say these kinds of things by not calling people out for saying these kinds of things and even praising them creates a mentality that is unhealthy for both the people that believe this and the people who are affected by it. I believe that allowing that promoting these kinds of ideologies creates the alt-right and creates hate groups on the right as well as creating hate groups on the left. I find it very counterproductive. So due to that, I thought, I'm justified in whatever I do. So I thought, okay, I'll call them out and I'll make a real big divide on campus and maybe that'll get it in the public forum and I don't care if people hate me, right?
But do you still stand by it?
Yes. So to say whether or not I stand by it, no, I don't stand by it. As I've moved forward with this process, as I've spoken with different people in the college to move forward my understanding and ideas, I've come to realize that there is a very effective way to get my message out. It can entirely operate behind the scenes if I so wish. And my message isn't necessarily inherently correct, but I think that my premise is correct, that these generalizations are bad and that they're rampant. But I've been exposed to a new set of methods to raising my message to higher staff members at the college. So I definitely don't stand by my message now, and I'm moving in a new direction to promote this in a healthy way.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked you is that, and once again, this is just to clarify my inherent bias. I called you out on this after you made the post. I think that we went to go eat Wendy's, I think, and I stopped and I went,
yes.
What were you thinking? And you were like, about what? And I was like, that post, that was horrible. And I proceeded to, I wasn't mean or anything, but I proceeded to dig a little bit.
You don't think you were mean.
Oh, well, maybe I was kind of mean about it, but I was.
You're over here calling me an idiot in the middle of a Wendy's, man. Little kid started crying. The cashier just gave you an awkward look, and I'm just like, I'm sorry.
Okay,
we're having relationship problems.
All right, that didn't happen. Let's not turn into drama here, please. Look, the gnome has a freaking monopoly on that market. We are not tapping that demographic.
Oh, see, I'm not in on the no.
Oh my god. All right. Well, I guess kind of where I would go from that. In terms of, after you responded, after you kind of realized there was a better way. Can you talk about that better way a little bit? And then kind of jump into what you've been doing currently? I know you did a book reading, and I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, after.
Yeah. So I think going chronologically would be better for this particular way. Well, no, I suppose going into the better methods would be good first. So I don't want to go into too much detail about it, as this is all kind of behind closed doors meeting with an administrator, and I don't want to take anything he said and put it out there without giving him his due rights to put it in the light that he would like. But essentially, I've been given a few names. I've been given kind of a quick pass to get access to these people if I so need it. Whereas if I were to email these people without this kind of prior situation, I probably would have been backlined or dismissed as a racist of some kind. Now I'm being kind of pushed through by somebody who has a lot of valued respect and trust in the community. So what I'll be doing is I'll be collecting evidence of these kinds of issues. I'll be talking to students and their understanding of this issue. And once I've kind of validated that this issue exists on Berea's campus with hard evidence, I'm going to move forward into why it's bad and why we should be taking a step to do something about it. And essentially what I'll be doing is making a presentation for these people. I'll be working initially with a few different people on campus to get this presentation really refined. And then as we move forward, we'll present it to more and more people with more and more authority. And hopefully it takes off. The way I see it, as long as I'm on the side of reason, I'm always correct. And that makes it very easy to refine my message if I find, oh, well, I'm not right in this sense, right? So that's kind of where I'm going. And what I've been doing recently is really just making meetings with people behind closed doors, honestly, getting this plan kind of filed down and collecting that evidence on my own. But I think as I move forward, I'll be given better methodologies to do this.
So I guess you would say is that you've kind of learned that in a lot of ways, I guess the limitations of social media are problematic because they make things devolve rather quickly. They make people react too quickly. Not only did that person remain unnamed, this individual was very reactionary, and then you reacted right back, and that really didn't accomplish what you wanted it to accomplish.
Entirely accurate.
Yeah, specifically, I remember this one thing where this was before the Wendy's, where apparently I made children cry. I got to go back and apologize to my sister.
They're probably still there, knowing the American public. Still gorging.
All right.
Oh, how did I miss it? I'm a vegetarian. I forgot to mention that in the introduction. Every vegetarian has to tell you.
All right, Michael Moore. So
we have to retcon this episode. Throw it out. Okay. I refuse to use this episode.
So
can we do a new opening?
There we go. So I guess what I would this was kind of something that kind of popped out of my mind is I remember after you made that post and it kind of blew up and of course kind of devolved a little bit turned toxic and you're like, okay, I concede that maybe this was not the best way to do this. If you guys would like, let's have a public forum and discuss. You said something along the lines of like discuss our differences or like air our differences or something like that, and you had recommended a public forum. And I remember specifically, once again, these people were McDaniels, of course, but I remember them saying no platform for racists.
Yes.
And that really struck me as just so odd, because you could say, Isaac was inflammatory, or Isaac did something he shouldn't have done, or I don't agree with the way you went about this. Like, okay, those are all valid criticisms. Hell, I had those criticisms.
How dare you?
Yeah.
We're on the same side. That means everything I do is right. Give it the program.
Oof, I got some bad news for you, buddy.
Damn. Oh no. You're on the side of racists. That's okay.
But,
you're with the majority.
I remember that as just being so odd that it was like, you conceded that that what you had done was probably not the best avenue, right, for good dialogue, and that you conceded that a public forum would probably be better, and then you offered a hand, and they immediately turned to, well, no platform for racism. That's so dangerous to view another person like that in such a way where even if they say, yeah, okay, I was wrong about this, hey, you want to talk about it? And for them just to immediately go, no platform for racists. It's like, that's dangerous. It's important to remain empathetic towards other people, I think. And that for me personally, I guess, was something that kind of struck me as so odd, so striking. That's actually one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, this whole kind of occurrence on the college, just because I think it's really interesting that it evolved so quickly. But kind of moving forward, I guess.
That's a roundabout way of calling me a racist.
Yeah, whatever. I guess kind of moving on, kind of the other things you're working on, not just the kind of the meetings in real life and the meetings outside of social media. But I heard you did a book club reading. So explain what the book club is, or like what it was, and kind of what you learned, what you did well, what you didn't do well, and what you kind of want to do with that moving forward if you have the chance.
Yeah. So it was actually a banned book reading, and this was our second annual one. I went to the first one. That went over exceedingly well because I talked about Hemingway and his hypermasculinity and how I think it fed into his negative personality. So, of course, everybody ate that up. So I come in to do a reading from Dangerous by Milo Yiannopoulos, which nobody could pronounce, of course. They tried to read his last name when presenting me in my book and why it was banned. And they said it was banned because Milo Yiannopoulos condoned child molestation. And I was like, I can't let that fly. So I said, well, he apologized and came out and said it was about his relationship with an older man when he was 17. So I got that out there real quick. But, yeah, so I do this reading from Milo. And, I should also preface, look at me being such a great speaker. At the very beginning of the book reading, they said, we have a list of the books that are being read, and we want to remind everyone this is not a platform for hate, like all these things that could possibly be in my reading. They did not preface the reading that way last year. They were very clearly targeting me, as all the other books were they were very safe, very milquetoast, right? So I do my reading. Went over rather well. I don't have evidence of this, unfortunately, because I didn't record time, but it felt like I presented for about 3 minutes when everybody was given 5 minutes, so that was somewhat upsetting. But, I mean, it went over fairly well. Unfortunately, nobody wanted to talk to me after the show, or after the reading. I don't think anybody really learned what they could have. If I could have done it differently, I probably wouldn't have even read Milo at all. They didn't give enough time for any intellectual thought to be disseminated among others, just for a few passages from a book that somebody likes, which is horribly silly. Just a terrible way to do the program.
So maybe you would have your own reading, perhaps, where you would maybe read half a chapter or maybe just a few paragraphs and have a roundtable discussion?
Yeah, I think that would be more to my liking. Personally, I'm not in the market of debating Milo's ideas. I'm in the market of understanding Milo as a character in this system, as an actor in this system, because I think on systems levels. And I think that getting my ideas out and even challenged is very key to understanding the political environment that we're currently in and the role that Milo plays in that.
Interesting. It's funny. It's funny that you chose Dangerous. I don't know if you know this because you were not on Facebook at all when this went down, but on the New Deal Facebook page, the book club had a reading of Milo Mayo. Just, you mentioned...
It's the last name most people have trouble with.
Yeah, well, you know what? I gotta break the curve, buddy. Dangerous. They read dangerous, okay? I'm done.
Well, at least you got that part right. I mean,
yeah, you know what? I can pronounce dangerous. So, 1 out of 3 ain't
you're really
bad.
proud of it because you keep saying it.
Yeah, 1 out of 3 ain't bad, all right? Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts on kind of this whole debacle, the white girlfriend getting pressured out of the African American studies, or the Facebook pages, or the comments on Facebook, or the climate survey and book reading and all this stuff kind of combined. Any kind of final thoughts on all of this?
Yeah. So I see a system that is closed off to reason unless you put it in a certain light. And it's very difficult to hit that light, hit that sweet spot of emotion when you approach somebody and reason, and also allowing them to modify or to challenge your reason while keeping them open to accepting it if it's more accurate, more reflective of reality. It's also important to put philosophy with facts and to speak from your philosophy when you start to argue why your facts are more reflective of reality or construct a better reality than somebody else's facts if they're both equally valid. And that's something that I never see happen in debate. And I think that it's very hard to know when you don't. I think that the moment that you think you know something is the moment that you stop inquiring about it. And it's very dangerous to fall into that point, and it's very hard to stay aware of that thought. So for anybody listening, I would really hope that you take away knowing that you should never assume that you know something, and it's very difficult to do that. It's something that philosophers waste tons of time writing stupid papers that nobody reads on. Go out there and read John Stuart Mill's On Liberty. I think that's really what galvanized me and changed me. Closing thoughts on all that, kind of more general than the direct ideas, but kind of what I would pull away from my current message with all of this situation. If you tag me, I'll do some Q&A.
Yeah, alrighty. Well, this has been the New Deal Network Podcast, Episode 3. And as always, I'm your host, Kyle Snyder. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you guys soon. Bye.